What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel, and it is Super Bowl Sunday weekend. The Super Bowl is 2 days away, and I want to give my prediction for the big game between the 49ers and the Chiefs. But first, let's take a look at how these two teams got to the Super Bowl. Let's rewind the clock and talk about how these teams got there. So you have the 49ers, who had a first-round bye, number one seed in the AFC. They host the Green Bay Packers at home in the divisional round, and that game was one of the craziest games of the postseason because many people thought the Packers were going to get blown out after upsetting Dallas, but Green Bay actually made that a very close game, nearly went to overtime, but the Niners were able to hang on and beat the Packers at home. Then they have the Lions, who just won 2 playoff games. They struggled to win any playoff games over the last 30 years. You get the Lions at home. They get out to a 17-point lead, but the Niners come back in the second half. Questionable decisions by the Lions and Dan Campbell end up costing the Niners that game. And now you have them facing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, who opened the NFL playoffs in the wild card round, playing against the Miami Dolphins. Took care of business against Miami. Relatively easy win for them. 26-7, I believe it was, 26-10. Then they go to Buffalo, and then they beat Buffalo in a thriller after the Bills missed a potential game-tying field goal. And then they go to Baltimore and play the AFC Championship game against the number one seeded Ravens, and everyone's saying this is the year that the Ravens are going to go to the Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson's going to get that big playoff win. But that is not how it played out, because the Chiefs ended up getting a very big win, sending them to the Super Bowl. And now you have the Niners and the Chiefs, a rematch of the Super Bowl a few years ago in 2020, in which the Chiefs came out on top in that matchup. And when you look at how the matchup fares this year, I think it's the same case as the Super Bowl matchup from a few years ago. The Niners are definitely the better team on paper. The two quarterbacks, they aren't really comparable because Patrick Mahomes is by far and away the best quarterback in the NFL, even though Lamar Jackson just won his second MVP yesterday, which I completely think he deserved. It's a regular season award. We shouldn't let his postseason play affect how we evaluate the MVP because it is a regular season award. If the NFL or other leagues want to do something about that, give out MVP before the playoffs start, or make it a cumulative award. Factor in the postseason when you're debating the MVP. But it's a regular season award. It's given out the weekend of the Super Bowl, and that's how it is. And I think Lamar Jackson was the best overall player in the regular season because, frankly, it is a quarterback award. And when you have a guy like Christian McCaffrey, who just had an insane season from the running back standpoint, just a monster season, he won Offensive Player of the Year. You could have made an argument that he should have won MVP, but they're not giving that award to a running back. The last running back that got the award was Adrian Peterson, and apparently the voters didn't think that Christian McCaffrey had a good enough season to make history in that sense, because Lamar Jackson got 49 out of 50 first-place votes for MVP. So the voters were going to give it to a quarterback, and that's who they gave it to. But back to the discussion of the game. 49ers Chiefs, I think the Niners are the better roster on paper because you have guys like Christian McCaffrey I just mentioned. You have guys like Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings. Just those players I mentioned alone, their skill position players are much better than any of the guys the Chiefs have. And I forgot to mention George Kittle as well, who had a great season from the tight end perspective. You look at the Niners offensive line, you have to factor in Trent Williams. He's been the best offensive tackle in the league for a few years now. And that 49ers offense is going to pose a threat to the Chiefs defense, who's really been one of the best defenses all season. And it's something that we're not really used to seeing from the Chiefs because they've usually been all offense under this Mahomes and Andy Reid era. But this year, their offense kind of took a step back. Wide receivers aren't as good as they were in the past, and the defense really stepped up and solidified itself as one of the best overall defensive units in the league. And they've continued that play into the postseason. They held the Dolphins offense to 1 touchdown. They held Josh Allen and the Bills to 24 points. And the Ravens only scored 10 points on the Chiefs. So that defensive unit is going to come to play. And then when you have a look at what the Chiefs have, obviously Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, that duo is going to be unstoppable. Rashee Rice, a wide receiver for the Chiefs, who's kind of finding his way in the postseason. He's going to have a big game if Kansas City wants to win. And then you look at guys like Isaiah Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Just based on paper, the 49ers are definitely the better team. And I didn't even get into the Niners defense, who features guys like Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, guys like that, Javon Kinlaw. No, not Javon Kinlaw, sorry. Dre Greenlaw, that's what I meant to say. Really good linebacker for the 49ers. And so I think the Niners are the better team on paper, but in terms of my actual prediction, I am going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to win a very close ball game. I just think that the difference of the game is going to be the quarterbacks, because I think it's going to be a close game because I think these two defenses are going to keep it close. Even though the Niners have struggled against inferior opponents, I think their defense has kind of sleptwalked the first halves of their two playoff games that they've played, the divisional round and the NFC Championship. The defense needs to come out and get out to a fast start if they want to have a chance to beat Kansas City. Because if the Chiefs get out to a 17-point lead, I don't see Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and all those guys blowing that lead. But I do think that the Chiefs are going to win the game because it's going to come down to the two quarterbacks. And who do I trust more in the Super Bowl? I'll take the guy that's been there 4 times in 6 seasons as a starter over a guy in Brock Purdy who has had a great start to his NFL career. Went to the NFC Championship game last year and went to the Super Bowl this year. So he's off to a great start. Kind of a similar career start that Patrick Mahomes had, because in Patrick Mahomes' first season as a starter, he throws 50 touchdowns and then waltzes all the way to the AFC Championship game, and they come up short to the Patriots. And then the next year, they go on and win the Super Bowl, beating the 49ers. So maybe Brock Purdy is off to that same kind of trajectory. We don't really know yet. We'll have to see what happens in the offseason. Rosters change all the time. But I do believe in Brock Purdy. I think he's a very good quarterback, and he's had a very good season. But I don't trust him more than Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. He's been there too many times. He knows what he needs to do to win. The only time the Chiefs didn't win the Super Bowl was against the Buccaneers in 2021, when their offensive line was absolutely horrendous and Patrick Mahomes had no time to do absolutely anything, and Tom Brady and the Bucs took advantage of that. I don't think that mismatch is going to be that great this time around, and I do think that the Chiefs are going to repeat as champs, and that's not something that we see a lot in the league. And if they are able to pull it off, just imagine what it would mean for them and that fan base, because it was a really rocky season for the Chiefs. There were even talks about them maybe not winning the division. They were off to a really rough start. Guys were dropping passes left and right, but they still found a way to go all the way to the Super Bowl. So if they managed to win that game, I think that would be it would just be huge. And I think they will win the game. And it would not be a disappointing season for the 49ers, because they get all the way to the Super Bowl. They don't get the ultimate prize in winning the championship, but you have a guy in Brock Purdy who's not really making any money, so you do have an opportunity to continue to build around him. But I don't think this time around it's going to happen for them this year. I'm sorry, Niners fans. I do think that the Chiefs are going to win the game and spoil what has been a really magical season for the 49ers. It's been a magical season for both teams, but I'm really excited to see who's going to win the game. Let me know who you guys think is going to win the game down in the comments below. Do you have any predictions for Super Bowl MVP? Any sleepers that we may not be thinking about going into the game? Thanks for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, and find the rest of my content linked in the description.